Hey everybody, it's Mattowarrior here doing the 8th episode, I believe, if I'm counting correctly. My brain's fried from all the sugar and coffee and jobs and music I've listened to over the years, so I'm now I can't say drugs or alcohol, but because I'm not super into that stuff. I'm just blaming other things. But anyways, I believe it's the 8th episode. But today we have something special. So I'm going to do two things a little bit differently, or one thing a little bit differently, and then we have an interview with Derek from Decoherence, which is an up-and-coming band, and actually he has like 7 or 8 other projects. I mean, I was just kind of flabbergasted that someone could have that many projects and have them at an extreme level of quality too. So just it's going to be it's a really cool interview. Had a good time. So I'm trying to get more interviews. If anybody can refer me to some good bands and stuff. Like I said before, I like to have bands that are more on the cutting edge than your average, whatever rock or metal or, post grunge or new metal or metalcore or whatever, gent or whatever bands. Pardon me saying that, but so instead of doing the news segment today, I'm going to do something a little bit different, and that's going over this article and kind of dissecting what I think about it and of it, that is, and just the things that it gets wrong, because I don't like this. I mean, hopefully this is not going to be too culture war, political kind of thing, or a culture war political thing for people. But I'm going to try to refrain from that. But for the sake of this article, I thought I'd go over it and just what I think of these various things that this article talks about. So the article is it's on loudersound.com, and it's called 10 Movies That Got Metal Completely Wrong. And I'll read the article, and I'll go one by one. Instead of doing the news segment, I thought this would be a little more entertaining in a certain way. So 10 Movies That Got Metal Completely Wrong by Matt Mills. So another Matt, Metal Hammer, I guess he's from. I don't know which one. Or Mills. Okay, I'm trying to read this. I got to get a bigger monitor. Netflix new Metal Lords movie gets metal spot on. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm just saying. But here are 10 cinematic turkeys that absolutely screw it up when it comes to the music. It doesn't say comes to the. It says comes the music, bands, and the fans. I saw this come up on my Facebook feed, so I figured, because some of it was just like, oh, come on, you don't get it, do you? So I'll read the article. This is Spinal Tap, Wayne's World, Deathgasm. I just saw that actually yesterday. Deathgasm, by the way. Netflix's brand new Metal Lords. Some films just get metal, drenching every second they can in witty send-ups and gloriously obnoxious music. Just get metal, I should say. These are not those films. From 80s exploitation horror to dated 2000s throwbacks, metal's also been the backdrop of a slew of lazy and inaccurate duds. Here are 10 films that completely misunderstood what heavy music is about. Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park. Connoisseurs of I'm not going to read this whole article. I'm just going to go through parts of it because it just, you can read it, but I'll talk about what I think about some of the major points. Connoisseurs of the so bad it's good film need this Hanna-Barbera produced fever dream in their lives. Even the premise is hilarious. Kiss fight an evil inventor to save a theme park, but when you watch it and see the piss poor acting, ridiculous costumes, and drummer Peter Criss shooting eye lasers. Yeah, I agree on this point. It's not a very good movie. Detroit Rock City, which was a movie that came 20 or 30 years later, got Kiss a little better. It just was a bad movie, and I don't even think it's so bad it's good, because I don't find any entertainment in that movie. And Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park. I like a lot of bad movies, don't get me wrong, but this is not one of them that I actually like. So next we go to Hard Rock Zombies, 1985. Hard Rock Zombies is a work of pure insane fantasy. Its plot follows a hair metal band that are murdered by a Nazi cult and then return from the grave. However, the most surreal thing is the scene where the manager demands photos of them being worshipped by groupies and they say no. Glam metal has never been so devoid of sleaze. Devoid of sleaze. So he okay, this guy contradicts himself. You'll see in a minute. Nor as incomprehensible, the writer of this article, that is, nor as incomprehensibly ridiculous. Okay, I like some of these, like, metal exploitation, as they call it, movies, as we'll get to in a minute. I think there was a genre, there is a genre, and it's called metal exploitation. My favorite is Trick or Treat, though. Trick or Treat came out, I think it was 86. It had Fastway do the soundtrack. The kid in that movie was me. I identify with that kid so much. He got picked on, and honestly, he was a little metalhead kid in, high school, and he gets picked on, and, all this stuff happens. And yeah, I won't give it away. It's supernatural horror, so you should watch it, anybody that hasn't seen that. It was a cool movie. Rock and Roll Nightmare, 1987. Now, this is kind of, God, this guy doesn't really get it, does he? Rock and Roll Nightmare doesn't just get heavy metal wrong, it gets everything wrong. Direct-to-video horror was the ego trip of John Michael Thor, muscle man turned rock singer, wrote, produced, and started his ultra-cheap video nasty. So? The songs are lifeless, the effects suck, and the pacing is skull-numbingly dull. This isn't even so bad it's good, it's just shit. Well, I haven't seen that movie, I should see it, but as far as, like, Thor, as far as, like, a metal exploitation, it is known as a classic. I mean, it's cool that he was in a movie, I don't really get this guy. Not only does this writer of this article kind of contradicts himself at times, like he liked Phantom of the Park but hates this. It just, it's just like, ugh. This article just kind of makes me a little mad. Not super mad, but. All right, next we get to Black Roses. John Fasano's exploitation horror gets some stuff right. The soundtrack was released by Metal Blade Records and has Lizzie Borden on it, which are great. However, story indulges all the negative heavy metal stereotypes of that era. A touring heavy metal band called Black Roses began influencing a small town's teens, their performances making them murder their parents. It's all the satanic panic cliche nonsense. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm going to stick up for Black Roses. Because partly they got me into like more AOR-ish stuff with the soundtrack, over 10 years ago now when I first saw it. Like I got into like a lot of the stuff like King Cobra and some of those bands that were on there. So, essentially Black Roses is King Cobra without like one of the guitarists or whatever. But yeah, I like some of Black Roses. I think they got it wrong. The execution could have been better. It could have been a better movie. I mean, it talks about a lot of different stuff, like early on, like the parents are debating whether or not to let Black Roses in. Essentially, in a way, you can call it, this spoiler alert, you can skip a couple minutes here. Black Roses is kind of like Deathgasm Deathgasm was like Black Roses meets what is it called? What's that movie about the Pit? Was it called? From the 80s about the playing metal backwards and summoning the devil or whatever. Anyways, Deathgasm was cool. I'm glad he likes Deathgasm, but anyways, we'll skip ahead. Rockstar 2001. Bill and Ted director Stephen Herrick. I didn't know it was him. Wow, that really sucked. Falls from grace with his Tim Ripper Owens-inspired biopic, which is laden with homophobia and casual misogyny. Okay. All right. Now, we'll get to this a little bit more with this fucking, PC. All right. This is trigger warning for people that don't want to hear about this kind of stuff. It's just, okay. I'm going to make the statement in a minute once I get to this other movie, but let's just... I'll just keep going. The ending, where Mark Wahlberg single-handedly invents grunge, that's not really what happens, but whatever, is also unfathomably shit. At least there's a killer Miles Kennedy cameo in there. So I'll say Rockstar sucked. I hate it. I hate that movie. I saw it in the theater. I think it was free. I think I saw it for free. Like my friend used to, I think that's what happened. My friend used to date this chick that worked at a movie theater. Oh, some more, anyway. I think we got in there for free. If I could remember correctly, it could be corrected by that. But yeah, the movie sucked because it had this sneering attitude towards metal and so many anachronisms that it was horrible. Like, oh, they tuned to like C sharp, in the mid '80s with like a modern guitar tone. No, that's. I mean, yeah, there were bands that tune lower, but it wasn't. Not. I mean, the lowest tuned bands were like Carcass, like in the mid '80s. Like they wouldn't play like hair metal. Motley Crue tuned to D, but yeah, anyways, I would keep going. There's a lot of complaints about the movie. I thought it was stupid. Very stupid movie. The Rocker, 2008. Bar This Is Spinal Tap, School of Rock may be the most beloved rock and metal adjacent movie. The Rocker released 5 years after Jack Black's modern classic, which I liked School of Rock. Tries to recapture its endearing man-child rocking with kids' charm and falls flat on its arse. This guy must be British, obviously. Metal Hammer's British, or at least the original one is, I think. Jokes about using drumsticks as murder weapons and rock stars inexplicably adopting British accents when they get famous have no basis in reality. So ultimately, everything feels like a lazy cash grab. Never seen it. I can't really comment on that. Hesher, 2010. Now, before I talk about this movie, I'm going to say Hesher in the 90s, amongst a lot of the the smug alternative kids in high school, was a derogatory term for metalhead, like, quote unquote white trash metalhead with a Camaro on their lawn, wearing the metal shirt in 1995, when they should get with the times and wear a Rage Against the Machine shirt, man. Anyways, that was the term that people were called if they were into heavy metal in the mid-90s. I'm just going to put that. Call them Hesher. So let me keep going. Hesher looks and sounds very heavy metal. Joseph Gordon-Levitt based the style of the character off of Cliff Burton. I didn't know that. And the first half of the trailer is nothing but Metallica's Battery. That said, it's a bleak picture employing the depressed metalhead stereotype with none of the fun of the genre getting acknowledged. Well, maybe I'll see it. Add in an aimless plot and skippical meander. I like, what's her name? Natalie Portman, so I'll probably watch it and drool. Talk about casual misogyny. He's mentioning that, right, Matt? Anyways, I get a little obnoxious. Rock of Ages, 2012. Okay, I'm gonna have to give a disclaimer to this movie too. I liked this movie. Never seen the musical. I just thought it was kind of fun. It's not great, but it's fun. I actually own it. Believe it or not, I own Rock of Ages. Director Adam Shankman corralled names as huge as Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise does a good job. And Alec Baldwin for this jukebox comedy. However, no amount of star power can save you when you don't know what you're doing. The plot, a politician trying to shut down an LA rock club, has a nuance of a CBBC cartoon, no idea. While jokes about glam rockers looking like girls pluck only the lowest hanging fruit. Every idea here was well worn by 1989, let alone 2012. I liked Rock of Ages. Sue me. And the next one, this is where I'm going to talk about some of this stuff that pissed me off the most. Not the most in this article, but one of the things that pissed me off. So, American Satan, 2018. I watched this with some friends like a couple years back. And this movie, okay, I think it's very flawed, by the way. I thought that the soundtrack did not sound appropriate for the music, the way that the band were acting or what they were into. That's most of what they get wrong in these movies. They'll have like some really light sounding hair metal band for some like demonic band, like, I mean, I don't know, would it be easier to convince people to worship Satan with a glam band or a death metal band? Probably a glam band, obviously, but. Okay, I'm going to read this. So, if you didn't know a thing about metal and saw American Satan, you never listened to a note of the music. Directed by Sumerian Records founder Ash Avildsen, who is actually the son of John Avildsen, by the way, found out. It's not only batshit crazy, but misogynist as hell. Mother take daughter... he didn't use an S. Mother take daughters onto tour buses to lose their virginity. Woman forgive boyfriends for cheating, and the topic of rape is handled as delicately as playing football with a vase. In an era where metal's trying to become a safer space for women, this is precisely the kind of throwback we do not need. Okay, so for one, I'm going to say this. The band, I'm not going to give away too much of the movie. There's actually a series on Amazon, of all things, that's based on this movie that's come out. So, what do I think about the movie? It was imperfect, but it was awesome seeing Malcolm McDowell play a villain. There were some parts of the movie I really did like. And I'm just going to put this statement out there, and this is controversial. This is edgy as hell, and I know. This is decades ago. I first got into Manowar, okay? And I was really, like, maybe more of what you'd call, like, kind of a tight ass about political correctness and stuff like that back then. I got offended by a couple of their lyrics, and my friends, it didn't take me aside, but it sounds funnier. He took me aside and said, dude, this is like how the barbarians were back then, like, do you think, okay, this is going to sound a little bad, but like some of the stuff that they historically talk about in these movies, or it's like, there's violence and there's, sexual stuff, it's like when Manowar talks about it, you think Genghis Khan, like, cared about consent when he was pillaging villages back in the day? And if a band writes a song about it, do they have to write like a song like whitewashing that, like saying Genghis Khan gave him a consent form to have sex with the women of the town? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, right. So, American Satan. There's a plane flying overhead anyways. American Satan. So, it's kind of like this 80s-ish kind of band. You watch Def Leppard, behind the music. This is a thing that happened. This type of shit happened. Mothers there were mother-daughter groupies that went to Def Leppard concerts. Watch any behind the music, read any of these rock stars. I'm not endorsing any of this stuff. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's ethical. I'm not saying it'd be right today. I'm just saying it's an accurate depiction of what happened backstage throughout history. It's part of the culture of rock, a lot of that stuff. And maybe it's better that they're maybe it's better that they're going the other direction now. But if you're going to be depicting something with a historical context, this is the context. This is the kind of shit that happened. Mothers and daughters went backstage sometimes. And there was jailbait all over the place back then, especially more so the 70s probably, but the 80s as well. You ever read The Dirt? You ever read any of these books about these bands? I'm not endorsing it. I'm not saying it's good. But this guy is just like saying, and the band is okay, spoiler alert again. The band is like making a deal with Satan, okay? Would they not do that kind of shit more? It's Satan. It's not supposed to be good. It doesn't glamorize the devil. That movie particularly does not. So saying that it's like, using all this woke fucking PC shit in this article is just like, this totally oblivious to the history of this stuff. It's so ridiculous. So that kind of thing makes me mad. It just makes me mad. Because it's like, what are they going to do? Just say, oh, they should have just showed them, like, have affirmative consent in the scenes that the demon took them over or whatever. Spoiler alert, I think that's what happened. I don't even remember. It's been a couple years. But like, oh, the demon should give that affirmative consent to the groupie or whatever. Yeah, it's supposed to be sleazy. It's supposed to be fucked up because it's Satan. At least that it's more from a Christian point of view, where the Satan's the bad, and it's bad. These bad guys. It's kind of it's kind of almost like a Christian movie in a way. I'm not trying to say it is, but like the warning that it gives, like for people making deals with the devil and shit. So fuck this bullshit. So I'm gonna keep going. This is the last one. Slayer, the repentless killology. I actually didn't see that. Slayer's answer to Metallica, Through the Never, the repentless killology, was supposed to be a blood-soaked revenge thriller soundtrack by a thrash metal pummeling. However, as a gore fest, it's lame. Each kill is either pedestrian. So, okay, so all that feminist stuff is, all that anti-misogynist stuff is bad, but you could show killing people. That's good. Oh, yeah, that's great. Glamorize killing people, Matt Millis. It sounds like one. Yeah, anyways. Each kill is either pedestrian or so zany it's unintentionally hilarious. So, Slayer can rock up at the end as well. In a climax soundtrack by 30 Seconds of Angel of Death. Imagine taking a backseat in your own film. Okay, I've never seen that movie. it's cool that they did some kind of horror movie. You know, they probably should have done more of that kind of stuff. I know they were in Less Than Zero back in the day. That was pretty cool. And Glenn Danzig makes his basically the first appearance of Danzig is in Less Than Zero. Not Danzig himself, because he was in Misfits and Sam Hain. I'm just saying, like, Danzig the band is in Less Than Zero, which is a great, has some great songs in that. But anyway, Slayer was in that too. They weren't in it, but they were in the on the soundtrack. But they should have probably done more horror movies. Instead of waiting until towards the end of their career and done that. I agree with that. I've never seen it, but I'm just saying. So my favorite movie on this list, I'd have to say, well, first of all, Black Roses is flawed, but it's still kind of fun. Okay. It's pretty terrible. It could have been way better. It just, I heard it was a very muddled set, or not set, but they like pasted like half of another movie in there or something for some of the scenes or some shit, some of the like puppet scenes or whatever. Lizzie Borden in the beginning is awesome though, seeing them in the beginning, because it's basically Lizzie Borden dressed up as demons in the beginning of the movie. It's a cool movie for that. Hard Rock Zombies I've never seen, but it's supposed to be bad, kind of. So Trick or Treat is the best of these movies, but it's not on this list, of course. Rockstar is the worst. I'd say Rockstar is the worst of this list. Just because it gets metal so wrong. Like, at the end of, Mark Wahlberg's character, he goes to grunge, and he doesn't listen to metal anymore. Like, it's kind of right, this is word. It's kind of a bigoted, hey, this guy can go woke, I can go woke in another direction. Not Rock of Ages, Rockstar is kind of a bigoted against heavy metal. That's the truth. In my opinion, it's bigoted. That sounds weird, but, like, the end of the movie, like, the whole point of the movie is like, he finally finds his own thing because he was doing all this hair metal for years, but now he's in this like sensitive songwriter grunge, like acoustic coffee shop band, and that's better anyways. That's better music than excessive lifestyle of the 80s, this terrible Hesher music. My God, we're gonna have to make the end of the movie where Mark Wahlberg is redeemed because he's playing like coffee shop folk music. Fuck you, That's what I hated about the movie, partly. Not only the anachronisms and just the tone of the movie was off, and it just sucked. I mean, the soundtrack was okay. Jeff Scott Soto, I think, was on it. Zach Wilde and all these people. Rock of Ages is misunderstood and hated. I liked it. I don't care. I like it. It was cool. I don't give a shit. A lot of it's not even metal. It's more AOR, hard rock, Black Roses, it's almost good at times. Rock and Roll Nightmare, never seen. Hard Rock Zombies, never seen. Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park is probably the second worst, or the worst, probably. The Rocker, I've never seen. Hesher, I've never seen. American Satan, like I said, I think this guy just doesn't, like, he wasn't around back then. Like, he didn't know just how things were. It's not... Women forgive boyfriends for cheating. It's one thing about the other stuff he says, but like, what? I mean, that type of shit happens. That type of shit still happens. But back in the days of, how would you? These bands that went on tour, half the groupies probably had boyfriends. Sometimes they were at the show. Oh, shit, I guess they did. Oh, that's fucked up. We'll have to talk about that later. I don't know what this guy, like, glosses over. It's almost like he's glossing over the real reality of rock. Like, just a little soapbox here. I'm not into drugs, okay? So the rock scene all around, there's all sorts of people into drugs and alcohol. That's half of what it's, it doesn't mean I'm endorsing drugs and alcohol. I'm just talking about if I did a movie about the rock or metal scene in this area or whatever, some of it would depict people doing drugs or alcohol or excessive amounts of it, because that's the way things are. That's just the way things are. I'm not going to gloss over it, even if personally, on a personal level, I get drunk from 2 beers, So, as people know, that listen to this, that know me. So, I'm not going to gloss over that shit. It's just so, it makes me mad that this guy, this movie is, this article is just really smug and full of itself. I don't like it. That's why I had to go over it. So that's all I got to say about that. We're going to get to this interview shortly here. So, have Mattowarrior's Metal Madness. Today we're talking to Derek from a lot of different projects here. It's pretty amazing. One of them is Decoherence, and why don't you tell us all about yourself today? What are you all about as far as music goes?
Sure. So, the one of the, I guess, quote unquote, bigger bands that I'm in is Decoherence, which is a joint effort between myself and then two friends in the UK, and we're signed to Sentient Ruin Laboratories record label out of Oakland, California. And I mean, they work in distro with like Season of Mist and all them, and we have several full length albums out and a myriad of EPs and whatnot. That have a couple have been premiered through like Invisible Oranges, Cult Nation, Decibel, Webzine, things like that. So that project really took off pretty quick, and it kind of blew my mind how quickly that we got picked up by a label, and B, how much of a underground following it picked up so quickly. So that was even today, I'm still pretty flabbergasted by that. And it's been a couple of years now with that project going strong. We have a new full length album coming out relatively soon. Still finalizing the post mastering with I want to say it might be Necrosound Studios again out of Mexico, but I'm not sure if we're working with them or with MD Hall's studio, the Aversio Humanitatis guys, and their studio in Portugal. Or Spain, I can't remember, but possibly them too. But my moniker or stage name in Decoherence is Tahazu, which used to be a one-man black metal project that I had as well. I did the same stage name for that. That one-man project has ended, but I still use that stage name for Decoherence, as well as a couple of other projects in bands, one being international black metal band Ordo Malum, which is with some people from Romania and the United States. And we've worked with other people like Emily Highfield from Australia for really material with that project. And then just a slew of other bands. I also play in the bands, apart from Decoherence and Ordo Malum, I play in Eldarion, which is a newer project between myself and Bryce of Ramirdus. And that's a straight up Tolkien themed atmospheric symphonic epic black metal project, very akin to Caladan Brood and Summoning and all that. The huge influences for that project.
Yeah, I could definitely hear that Summoning influence for sure.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah. And then like I really like bands like Mythotin and everything too, like some of the older Swedish folk, Viking, and fantasy metal bands like that too. So that there was a big influence there too from bands like that, apart from like Caladan Brood and Summoning. And we just put our first full-length album, Gondolin, out not that long ago with that project. And then I am in a raw black metal band called Cryptic Evil. I have a different stage name, Ekal the Blasphemous, with that project. Very black and roll, very raw, old school black metal with Cryptic Evil. And that's a US project. And then I'm also in Pythonissam, which we just released our second full-length album this last Friday. And that's between myself and Foster from the band Bukovac out in North Dakota. And that's psychedelic-infused funeral doom metal. We have a lot of fun with that. We just spent like 6 months doing this album. And then I just joined another local doom band called Coffin Black with Jason from Order of the Jackal. And we've started that project up. Still just kind of getting material smoothed out for playing live and getting an EP out for that. And then, there's a couple more bands over that. I have another one-man project called the Anointing Maelstrom, which originally was heavily influenced by like Irkalian, Oracle, and Portal from Australia, but it's done a paradigm shift and is just much more bestial black death metal, war metal, which I really enjoy doing. Every once in a while you kind of have to go a little lowbrow and just unga bunga it. So that's a fun project for that. The Anointing Maelstrom just released an EP called Storm of Steel not that long ago for that release, but I've got a couple of other full-length albums and EPs with that project that's been going for several years. And then let's see what else. I'm also in a brutal slash slamming brutal death metal project called Odious Emesis. Just had an EP drop not that long ago. I'm actually working on a full length album right now with that, with a couple of buddies here around the area, and a local guy, Dalton, who's in the band's Doggy Dog, and is it Bring Down the Sky or Bring Me the Sky? I can't remember that project, but he's doing the mixing, mastering. He has a really nice home studio, Pro Tools, and all that stuff where he does that.
I think there was another not gore grind, sort of a grind core band too.
Yeah, another local grind project. It's just more for fun. It's called Beer Enema, which is very typical for the North Midwest. I thought that was an appropriate name based on kind of where we're housed in location, because beer is a big thing here. But that's a fun project, Beer Enema, and that's on a small local grind label called Putrid Slaughterhouse Records, which Bryce from Rom Reduce also runs. And he's in that project with me. We just get together and have some drinks and just make noise. It's a lot of fun. And then let's see, I'm trying to cover everything that's still like really active that I'm in. I also have a one-man solo pagan Nordic tribal folk project called Bani, Bani, and I just kind of release small EPs and singles here and there with that, because I really like world music and classical music and what people in bands like Torwolf and Wardruna and Heilung, I really like what they do, and I really connect with that. So I started doing a little project with that too, and I've got a bunch of traditional instruments that I tinker around with for that. Apart from playing in all these different metal bands and being kind of super involved in the local and national, international metal scene in that regard. And then I also do logo designs and artwork designs, logo commissions, all that stuff. And I do a lot of collaborations and cameos, vocals, guitar, whatever, for basically anyone who hits me up and wants to collaborate, if they're somewhat established or a kind of a newly starting project that I'm really into. And that's really kind of the gist with that. I play in a bunch of bands, and I just really enjoy being involved in the scene in a lot of ways. So
how do you make all that time for that? That's a lot of stuff. So
I think that's a skill that I've learned over the years, is just being able to time, space, and prioritize different projects. Like one project, I'll be in the initial process of tracking new material, starting with drums or whatever, and then another project I'll be in the last stage doing vocal tracking or whatever. Or a lot of the time, especially with these national and international projects where I'm working with other people, we're emailing tracking back and forth to each other. So once I'm done with my stuff, it's out of my hands and they do their thing, and then we work together a lot of the time on the mastering, or we send it off to a studio for post mastering and whatever else. So it's just been, it takes a little bit of diligence to be able to space things out and just manage things on that level. And then I was working an extremely busy full-time job, but for some reason I was still able to find the time. I don't know. I was definitely losing some hours of sleep here and there, but I mean, I've been playing guitar since I was 9 years old. I'm in my mid-30s now. I've been playing guitar and other instruments for a long time, and it's always been something that I've enjoyed doing. So I wanted to keep doing that, and I just made the time to do it. Apart from being busy with everything else, my job up until recently definitely hindered my social life, so to speak. So it was pretty much I was either at home tracking and working on music, or maybe doing a couple of other hobby related things, or I was working. So now that work is cut back, I'm able to a little more freely do those things, apart from kind of enjoy myself a little bit more. So
oh, absolutely. So Decoherence, and I mean, this just might show my ignorance of the current scene,
Sure.
but I kind of got a vibe of some of the French black metal bands I've heard over the years,
Mhm.
more avant-garde stuff. So is that kind of an influence on that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. With Decoherence or Decoherence, however you want to pronounce it. Yeah, that's the French scene, and then like Dark Space, they're Swiss. And then even elements of the Icelandic scene. Um, and then a little bit of flair from the German, Scandinavian, and in US scene as well. Bands like Aklis here, or Aklis, however you want to pronounce it, from Colorado here in the States, and other bands in that kind of avant-garde fusion black metal, black death scene. Huge influences there. Apart from older acts, we like the older industrial acts like Killing Joke and some Old Ministry and KMFDM, and even a little Skinny Puppy, and a lot of that stuff. And Stroda, the guitarist and primarily the instrumentalist for Decoherence, um, he likes some like post rock stuff too. So there's even a little like post influence in there too. So it's a big fusion of all that. Definitely a lot of Bluthaus Nord from that industrial fusion, death metal fusion stage, and then Dark Space and bands like that. Yeah, a lot of that. And vocally, because I do vocals and Decoherence, big influences for how I do that there, or do that in that project, apart from the themes that we use for when I'm working on lyrics and then tracking, bands like Aelsoth from the French scene, and Antaeus, and Miss Thyrming from Iceland, and bands like that, kind of that mid-range, gravelly kind of mid-range vocal style. Versio Humanitatis as well. They're a little bit of an influence as well. That kind of mid-range, and then the way that it's mixed a lot of the time. My vocals aren't like buried in the mix, but they're definitely pulled back in the mix because they're not meant to be upfront, like some mixing and mastering that you hear in some higher production metal stuff, and then obviously in other types of music like pop music and stuff. The vocals and the lyrics are supposed to be just another atmospheric element alongside everything else in a good balance. And then lyrically, we focus a lot on a fusion of physics, metaphysics, theoretical physics, quantum physics, astronomy, astrophysics, and then fusing that with my take on esotericism and occultism and things like that, and kind of how they can meld together and things like that.
So what would be the difference as far as the lyrical approach between all the projects, as far as I'm not talking about like the core stuff, but like just the different occult stuff. And I know was that the one that was I don't know how to pronounce it, but
Pythonissam.
Pythonissam was very Lovecraft oriented. So.
Yes. Yeah, very much Lovecraft. We kind of went with the a mix of the fiction horror there with Pythonissam, and then kind of some other in the first release, From Beyond, or is it From Beyond, From Below, From Below, From Beyond? I forget, just because I do so many releases. But with that one too, there's a little bit of that angle of like nostalgia and just kind of like, I wouldn't say depression, but kind of more of that angle to it as well. So kind of both of those themes are really the primaries and the heaviest themes for the Pythonissam project, horror fiction and things like that. And Odious Emesis, my brutal death metal project, is kind of like that too. Just a big fan of horror movies and splatter flicks and like your B movies, your trauma films and all that, Roger Corman films. Like, I love all that campy stuff. It's hilarious, and there's some pretty awesome practical brutal effects and all that. Apart from the other themes, just kind of the dark side of Americana. So those are big influences insofar as for Odious Emesis, and then some of the grind as well. Just a lot of that horror movie and like just real world fucked up shit like that. Yeah. and then with insofar as other like occult aspects, especially with like Ordo Malum and Cryptic Evil, and those are really those two big ones as far as those go. Ordo Malum and Cryptic Evil, it's much more kind of straight lined I wouldn't say it's a specific brand of like Satanism or anything, but it's just very, very generalized in the aspect of esotericism and hermeticism and things things involved with kind of those elements and those themes in that regard. I'm actually not a Satanist. I'm a practicing. I've been a practicing heathen or Nordic pagan for a decade now. So that's my thing. But with just how I collaborate with these guys and kind of what their views are on with things and what they want the themes to be, you know, I just try to be very flexible with it and create just create a well-rounded and well-structured composition with lyrics and things like that to really just convey what they want conveyed with my creative touches to it, while being honest to those views and things like that. Yeah.
Have you ever clashed with any of your collaborators, or?
No, not really with collaborators. No. Back when I had like a SoundCloud account, and every once in a while somebody would want to, you know, was trying to contact through SoundCloud, and I'd listen to their stuff, and some of the projects being very, very just out of the box and brand new, you know, very rough around the edges. It's like, hey, you can do this and this and this to help kind of balance things out a little bit, and with the sound and all that. And sometimes I wouldn't hear back from those people, just trying to give some honest insight, because I was a live sound engineer at some venues kind of in this region as well for a while. So I kind of understand how to balance things out with that and all that. Like, hey, your drums are way too loud. Try and tinker with those a little bit, or, you know, your timing's off with your guitar a little bit. Let's work on this a little bit. And sometimes I won't hear back from them, and that's okay. That's fine. But as far as a lot of the main projects that I work on and a lot of the collaborations that I've done otherwise, there's been no issues. I think the biggest issue I had was with one of the prior labels that I was working with when my Tahazu project was still active. I'm not going to name who or name names or anything, but they just were not very communicative and just did not have a good business acumen, at least at the time, to appropriately communicate with and address artist needs. Even being a small label, it's like, hey, what's going on, you know, and just not hear anything back. That's really the only time that I've ever had like a clash of heads or anything, but water under the bridge at this point. You know, I don't worry about that kind of stuff a lot of the time, as long as everybody's kind of on the same page with what they want done and stuff. So
Do you ever have like any kind of conflicts ideologically with any of your people you collaborate with? Or?
No, not really. Not really. Some people want to get political, you know, and things like that. And it's like, hey, fine, you know, I you know, I can hear and understand your perspective on it. It doesn't mean that I agree with it, but that shouldn't take away from either A, the friendship, or B, the partnership that we have, you know, unless it just really gets to that extreme level where somebody is just like full on Antifa or, you know, one, you know, in an AB group or something. It's like, okay, I'll still be your friend, but we have to kind of distance ourselves a little bit. I can't affiliate, you know, with that, but that's never really been an issue. So
yeah, I saw that on the Anointing Maelstrom that you said, no politics, only war and death. So
yep, yeah, exactly. Because some projects, whether it's war metal or even especially with the black metal scene, you know, you have the extremes on the left and the right, and it's like, you know, I can enjoy the music without agreeing with the politics. Not some people can't, you know, and you know, that's fine, you know. As far as like a label goes and like their political standpoint on things, like, you're supposed to be a business. You really shouldn't be having like a hardline open view like that per se, if you want to actually be a transparent business that is trying to cater to a larger community or the industry as a whole. That's just my opinion on it, though. But yeah, with like the Anointing Maelstrom being war metal, you know, it's like, no, I'm not going to take sides on that. You know, that project's just about natural disasters and a war, and just being the unrelenting, brutal nature that it is, or whatever form. So
yeah, do you think politics are too involved or intertwined in music nowadays, or?
it can be in some ways, you know. It does vary, you know. Obviously everyone's entitled to their opinion and their political views and things like that, but with certain genres and forms of metal, there really shouldn't be that political angle to it, at least in certain ways. Like, you look at black metal, for example, you know, that was originally a bunch of dudes revolting against Christianity and just like society being antisocial and things like that. Like, why is there so much of this RABM and NSBM coming around now? Like, I get it, you know, people have political views, but that's really not the genre and type to be emulating that. It was meant to be against hostile dogmatic takeover of religions, being Christianity and Islam, and it's turned into a lot of different offshoots. And it, not to sound elitist, but it takes away from the core principle of what that subgenre is, you know. Again, just my view on that. But other genres, I mean, look at grind. Grind has been political pretty much from the get-go. That's really the genre. If somebody wants to be political, they should just do a grind. That's that's really the subgenre to be doing that in. A lot of the other genres and subgenres, I mean, I like to be able to see that retention of kind of the core principles and elements that make that genre what it is, you know. So fantasy music, you know, it's going to be fantasy stuff, Tolkien world or D&D world or whatever it is, you know. And then with, you know, with death metal and brutal death metal, you know, a lot of that, some social aspects in that, but a lot more just, you know, horror themes and things like that, you know, keeping it fun, you know, and kind of rooted in what it is. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, I actually, speaking of D&D, I actually do play role playing, but
me too.
I heard that they took away races from D&D or something like that, which I don't know. It just doesn't have to be in the podcast. You don't want to hear about it. I just wanted to talk about this.
No, that's weird. Good, because I used to play D&D like really hard back in the day. I'm talking like you know, like old 2.0 series and like 3.0 and 3.5, like way back in the day. I haven't played D&D since the whole new system came into play. I have played Paizo Pathfinder, which is essentially like 3.5 D&D, and I really like that. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I heard a rumor that they're taking away the races and making them all, or making the classes and the races like have all the same skill level or something. I don't know if this is true, if this bullshit or not. I just saw a video on YouTube about that. I was like, what?
Oh, they're taking it too far. Damn it.
Yeah, it was a little weird because, you know, part of the fun of role playing is if you get to play something, you might have some kind of limitation, you know, and you have to kind of overcome that, you know. So
yeah, exactly. That's kind of the part and parcel for what it originally was. Actually funny, because one of my old teachers, like way back in middle school, one of my teachers at that time, he was actually friends with Gary Gygax back in the day and kind of helped him play and tinker around with the initial inception of D&D and all that. So that was kind of cool.
Oh, wow. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Really cool. So, and then, like, I played Warhammer 40K for a long time. I don't have any of my models anymore and stuff. I paint and stuff. That's one of my side hobbies, but unfortunately I've gotten away from the tabletop gaming and stuff. Plus it's expensive as shit, and I like to spend money on instruments and ammunition more now. So
yeah, I got a friend that has his basement is just full of RPG books, pretty much.
Oh, that's awesome.
Walls are lined with just probably 40 years of various systems and stuff. It's pretty crazy. I go there once a week. Been doing so since 2009.
That's amazing.
we mainly play World of Darkness, so that's what we play. So
okay.
We play D&D and stuff. And yeah, I saw that today. I was just thinking about that because I was like, are they really doing that? I don't know if there's some kind of video that was like, it's kind of this right-wing commentator on YouTube. He's like, oh, they're taking away all the stuff, the people, you know. It's like, alarmist and stuff, you know, like some of those videos. But I'm not sure if it's true or not. I was like just, you know, trying to
Yeah.
because I'm
I don't know. I didn't hear anything about that. You know, and again, I'm more akin to the older versions of D&D and stuff. So if I were to start a new campaign with D&D, I would definitely want to try and revert back to like 3.5 and stuff, and Book of Vile Darkness and all that greatness. So
yeah, I just bought the red box from like 1983.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because I used to have that as a kid. It was like the first thing I played. So
Yeah, and it's like with old D&D, because uh yeah, I came across a bunch of those not that long ago, and so I've got some of those old books, and I was like, man, it's really cool how they kind of came out with like these, I guess you would call it a patch nowadays, but these like monthly books of like stuff to add to your campaigns, like that just spanned like several decades for the game back in the day. That was really cool. And same with like 40K, because like last time I played 40K, I think it was like probably 5th or 6th edition, and they're in like 10th edition or something, like 11th edition now. It's kind of crazy. So
yeah, I thought about doing a campaign just like from the red box to the what is that, the gold box, the Immortal set.
yeah,
It's almost like an occult, like you become a god and immortal at the end of it. It's pretty crazy. But I've heard that the adventures are kind of wonky with some of those. It's kind of harder to write like good campaigns for that. But
I could see that. Yeah, that's epic though. That's pretty epic.
yeah, I think it's awesome. Yeah, I think there was a compilation. What was it called? I almost picked it up. Of all this, everything except for the Immortal set. It's in one book. I can't remember what it's called, but it was from like the early '90s.
Sure.
But yeah, that's some crazy shit. But yeah. So, what got you into music originally?
Well, kind of like I said before, I've been playing guitar. I started playing guitar when I was 9 years old. My first guitar was an Ibanez G10, one of the like entry level 6-string Ibanezes that I got for I think it was Christmas one year, and started playing it, and then started learning like some of like Rob Zombie songs and Sabbath songs and all that, and worked my way up, started learning some like Amon Amarth and Cannibal Corpse songs and stuff. And then like I took like 2 lessons, and I was like, yeah, okay, this isn't for me. For some reason, reading sheet music just didn't jive with my brain. Excuse me. Didn't jive with my brain, so I read tabs only. As far as like when I do practice other people's material or learn a cover or something, or if I go to like write music down for other people to work with and stuff, it's all in tabs. But started playing guitar when I was 9, and then my brother got a drum set like the next year, and I started playing down that too. My drum licks are trash right now though, because I don't have a drum kit, and the only time I can practice drums is at a buddy's house. Yeah, no, I've just kind of been playing music for a long time. I'm in my mid-30s now, so I mean, you do the math, it's 20 something plus years that I've been playing guitar and all that. And I started doing like metal vocals when I was in high school, like 14, 15, getting into high school, and I started doing metal vocals. Because then, hearing some of the old Cannibal Corpse and like Nile albums, and then like Behemoth's Demigod album came out, and I was like, fuck, I need to do that. I mean, Demigod is still one of the heaviest albums ever made, in my opinion. Still my favorite Behemoth album is Demigod. Just amazing, just a punishing album. But like all that old school stuff, Unleashed, Grave, Cannibal Corpse, a lot of those death metal bands. And then I was getting into black metal bands, Old Emperor and Mayhem and Dark Throne and all that, and Gorgoroth, and then yeah, just kind of spiraled from there. And then at the end of high school, I joined my first like serious band, and that was the metalcore band, black and metalcore band, In Time of the Plague, which is based out of Appleton and Neenah area, kind of Grand Chute, that whole area up north in the Fox Valley area of Wisconsin. And the lead guitarist and founder of that band, Jared Brussman, still a great buddy of mine. I still talk to him all the time and go see him every once in a while. And he's collaborated with me on the Odious Emesis project. He did a solo on the first EP release, and it was sick. But he really helped me expand my guitar playing even more because, and then he went on to college and got his degree in music, and then he spent a year in Russia teaching music in English. But he was a huge help in helping me develop my guitar skills even more. And then just from there, I just kept playing and practicing over the years. And then when I was in the military, I would jam whenever I could. And I had like there was this small group of us that were like the diehard metalheads, and we smuggled a couple of CDs each in our green weenie duffel bags on deployment. So we had like this array of metal to just blast in our in our bunk area on the main base and everything. And it was a good time. So I just kind of kept up with it over the years as much as I could. And then about, it was probably 2012, 2013, I started getting really heavy back into like getting into bands and getting bands started. That's right around that time is when I started my one-man black metal band, Tahazu. Originally, it was two different bands, a grind band and then the black metal project. And I just kind of did away with the grind side of it and just focused on it being a black metal project, and worked on that. And I started, I had a SoundCloud account and all that, and just started kind of networking with people and connecting with people, and developed some really good friendships and some partnerships with some of the bands that are still active today. I started working with Stroda when he was for Decoherence. Stroda was originally just a solo project called Stroda. And then I started talking with him, and I did some guest vocals on a couple of singles for him. And then we were like, hey, let's just start a project. So then Decoherence came to be, and then that got picked up pretty quick by Sentient Ruin and kind of on the larger scale of the industry, which was really cool. And then a bunch of these other projects just started popping up as I was making friends and kind of collabing with people and everything. And now I just play in a bunch of these other bands. So
yeah, I was actually I mentioned Ministry earlier, or some industrial stuff. I was actually at that show last night in Milwaukee. So
nice.
Kind of blasted from it, so still kind of a little out of it today. But
yeah, I thought about going because I wanted to see the Melvins again too. But how were they? How was the Melvins?
It was pretty good. I'm not as big into the Melvins as the other bands. I've seen the Melvins like 2 or 3 times, so it's kind of.
Yeah, I've seen them before too. I was just like, yeah, I might as well see them again because they're probably going to call it quits soon. But
oh, wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, I'd never seen Ministry before, so.
Okay.
That was pretty cool. We played a lot of Minus Terrible Thing to Taste, which I like. That's my favorite one. So
nice. Yeah, cool. Yeah. That's a good era for them.
And COC, I think we missed the first or most of that, but we saw like the last 3 or 4 songs. So
sure, cool. Sure. Wait, who just died from the COC crew? One of the guys died from COC not that long ago.
Can't remember, honestly. I have to look that up.
I'll look it up right now. Yeah, that's the thing, like especially about the Midwest metal scene in general, apart from the tours that are coming through. I mean, the Midwest metal scene in general is really strong right now. And it's really cool to see. And I've done, like I said, I do logo commissions and stuff too. I just did a logo not terribly long ago for a band called Yotuma. And they're making some big waves like in the Madison scene. And they're playing with bands like Illusion of Fate and some of those other bands kind of in the local scene. Illusion of Fate's a really pretty sick symphonic black death metal crossover kind of project.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're really good. Who else did they just play with? Hex Tripper, which is kind of has that old school death metal fused with a little bit of like doom kind of flair. They're pretty good. And then just a bunch of other local bands, apart from the projects that I'm in locally and what like Bryce is doing with Rum Reduce and what we're doing with Eldarion. I mean, you've got Tubal Cain, the 2-piece I want to say his husband and wife. They do like a black metal thing. They're cool.
I've seen them.
Ruin Dweller, those guys rip. Ossuary, kind of old school death metal project, female fronted. they've done some really good stuff, and they've done a national tour and things like that. And then I got some of my friends are in the band Blitz Carnage, which is like old school black thrash, like think like Niflheim. Um, uh, our Rob, the guy with Blitz Carnage, he's a huge Niflheim fan, and they're really good. Yeah, there's just a really good scene around here. I mean, there's so many bands.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better because years back it was pretty bad, but like years in like the 90s. I'm just stuck in the past sometimes and think about like how shitty it was for a long time.
Right. Well, I mean, oh, for sure. Well, I mean, like the early 2000s. So we're talking, like 2004 and all that. Like the metalcore scene in Wisconsin was huge because I was really into the metalcore scene back then, being I was in Time of the Plague. But I mean, you had amazing bands like Forever is Forgotten from Milwaukee. You had Seven Angels, Seven Plagues. You had Autumn Vela. They were more from the Chicago scene, but I mean that's a Midwest scene, which then Veil of Maya came to be out of that. You have To Kill a Legend. Yeah. There's a bunch of great bands back in that scene in particular back in those times. The Milwaukee, like the Wisconsin Milwaukee grind scene was really good, years ago, 2010, 2009, 2010, like all in there. Bands like Fetopsy and Liturgy and then you got Sean over in Minnesota with Putrid Pile. You've got, so I mean, there's little pop-ups here and there where all of a sudden you have this really, really good, solid, somewhat successful explosion of bands that pop up in a certain genre and stuff. And then it might dwindle down a little bit and then something else will take over or whatever. But no, it's really interesting like that. It's the other thing with the Midwest metal scene too, it's very incestuous. You have a lot of guys joining other projects and going back and forth and things like that. So you see a lot of the same guys and a lot of the same faces.
Oh yeah.
Popping up in all these different bands, which is really cool. And just kind of seeing that collection, that collective like fusion of styles and what they're bringing to the table and, and all that. And there's some amazing bands like that. And, one of the downfalls with the Midwest scene is you do get a lot of, I wouldn't say prima donnas, but you do have a lot of people kind of like on an ego trip. So you will see people clash with personalities and like all this stuff, and just people thinking they're hot shit, but it's like, dude, you have a Reverb Nation page. You're not even like on Bandcamp or anything. What are you doing? Like you're not utilizing the market to your advantage, and you think you're cool because you play a bunch of local shows, but it's like, dude, tone it down a little bit. There's you guys are cool. You guys are good, but at the same time, it's there's a lot of people that have a big head about it, and it's you have to kind of stay grounded. Otherwise you're just gonna self-destruct as a band.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm not as familiar. I was playing more bands back in the mid 2000s, even though I'm probably going to be getting back out there myself. But
Sure.
What's the live situation like with your projects and stuff? What are your thoughts on playing live and stuff?
So some projects definitely want to play live, and I mean, I've played live in the past. One of the last shows that I played with in Time of the Plague was in 2009, going into 2010. We actually opened for He Is Legend and Drop Dead Gorgeous at the Rave in Milwaukee. That was a long time ago. That was like one of the bigger shows that I've played live with like an old project. And then another prior band was a Milwaukee black metal band called Nihil Rising. Played a lot of like local basement shows in the basement, because most of the band members like lived in the same house together. We all lived in the same house together. So we would just host shows in our basement, which was really cool. But as far as current projects go, there's a couple of projects. Coffin Black, being that I'm in that with Jason from he's the newer guitarist for Order of the Jackal. But and that's just straight up like black and doom metal project. We're working on a live set right now. We're rehearsing that and everything, so we'll be playing live with that. Other projects, the Anointing Maelstrom will be playing some live war metal sets in the coming future. Got some people on board for that to fill in as session musicians since it's a one-man project, but I've got them kind of getting up to snuff with just understanding how to, what would be done live with that. A lot of the other projects are going to end up just staying more in the digital space and with labels doing physical merch distro and things like that. I mean, some of those projects really aren't able to be played live just because of the amount of session musicians that we would need to hire, which is expensive, and then learning the material and then all of the layers of those onions and things like that. So some of those projects really won't come to fruition to being able to play live, but there are some that will definitely play live in the coming months, years, whatever. I just really enjoy networking and just being involved in a scene and making a lot of different music and material, and then collaborating and making appearances with other bands on their material and things like that, apart from the graphic art side of it and everything. So I just like being involved with it just as much as being able to have that opportunity to go to shows and hang out with people and then play live every once in a while. So some of those projects, yeah, we'll definitely be playing live soon though.
Yeah, I really liked my personal favorite so far, probably listening to all the stuff, was honestly Cryptic Evil was my favorite one. I don't know. It was really catchy.
It is. That one's a lot of fun, old school black metal, black and roll, raw black metal, black and roll, it's fun, it grooves, and it's actually a two-piece. There's one guitar and a drummer. We don't do a lot of after tracking for second guitars or bass or anything with that project. It's just like that. That project would definitely be able to play live too, because Bryce from Romerduce and his stage name Ezrink Warhammer. He's the drummer for that project, and he mixes and masters those releases. But I think in the future we'll be playing live with that project as well, and he wants to play live with his project Romerduce as well. But again, he's going to need session musicians or to run a drum machine through a DAW platform live and running it through the board and stuff. However he ends up doing that, but I've volunteered my ability to be able to help him out with that as well. But Cryptic Evil definitely should, I would hope, be able to play live soon, just because it is a little more simple, but yet at the same time, it's easy enough to be able to have a set ready to play live, being there's just two of us. So.
Oh yeah. So when do you write lyrics? What do you have in mind, really? What kind of mood do you have to be in to do that? Especially with the different projects too.
Yeah. So a lot of the time I don't really have to be in like a certain mood per se. Certainly some projects, a certain kind of mood helps, especially if it's something a little bit more depressive or something like that. You kind of have to put yourself in that headspace. A lot of the rest of the time, it's just kind of getting into the music and the instrumental tracking that's sent to me or whatever, and just kind of getting into it and being like, okay, I have an idea of how I want to do phrasing and things like that. And then I just kind of, if they have a certain theme, I implement that theme and write down lyrics and go from there. Or if I have a little bit more free reign with creativity with it, I'll just kind of do something within a realm I think that they'll approve of and like, and we usually just go from there. And I usually am able to actually track vocals in maybe one or two takes. So most of the time, I'm not like, I don't try and do everything in one take, but if I can get it in one take, that's that's solid. So
That's great. Yeah, I found there's a lot of different approaches that you do too. Like some of it was pretty, I don't know, pretty guttural, and some of it was more, in the black metal realm. So that's a pretty cool palette to have to choose from.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, it's just years of practice being able to utilize different ranges and kind of manipulate the throat and stuff. And I mean, I trained myself to do throat singing too, like for my Bonnie project with the Nordic tribal music. I can do a little bit of throat singing. I forget which certain style it's technically called, but I can do a little bit of throat singing. But then I started out doing more of the brutal and guttural style vocals, and then I kind of trained myself with practice to be able to do more throaty, like Attila Mayhem style kind of black metal vocals, like what you hear in Cryptic Evil and whatnot. A lot of the time my vocals are much more mid-range or kind of on the low end, but I'm still able to hit highs and kind of do that other alternative style when I want to or need to.
yeah, another thing I thought was cool is like all the different projects definitely had like the appropriate production too. That was like, it's not like one, it like all of them fit the projects well. So that was awesome too.
Yeah, they don't sound real flat or the same to each other. Yeah, no, definitely. And that, thankfully, because of a little bit of my background from the live sound work and stuff that I've done at venues and everything, I know how to run a board, so I know how to kind of balance things out on my end if I'm doing the mastering and production that way. With other projects like Eldarion, Odious Emesis, and Decoherence, other people or other studios are handling the production there, so you do get a really nice diversity of polished product. So yeah, they all do definitely sound unique from each other, and yeah, I'm very pleased with everything, especially lately. So just very pleased with it all, and it all sounds great to me. But I guess I'm biased to my own material. So
oh yeah, for sure. So I got some interesting or some okay questions here, I think.
Sure.
If you had to recommend 5 albums that you would consider underrated, what would you recommend?
Ooh, does the genre matter?
Does not matter.
Okay, underrated albums. I'll do an album from each, I guess, from like 5 different genres or subgenres. We'll do it that way. Underrated albums. Metalcore, I would say Conducting from the Graves, When Legends Become Dust. They got picked up by Sumerian Records back in the day, but that album didn't pick up quite as much as some of the other bands like After the Burial and stuff that were signed to the label. That album is absolutely amazing. From beginning to end, there really isn't a bad song in that album. And the John Abernathy from Conducting from the Grave went on to make another band very similar to Conducting from the Grave, but a little more death metal called Wastewalker. Highly recommend that band as well. But Conducting from the Grave, When Legends Become Dust for metalcore. And let's see, let's go to, I guess, black metal. Man, there are so many good black metal bands and albums out there. Ooh, that one's hard. If I'm going to go with a relatively newer release, I would have to say maybe Svarta Douthy's Revelations of the Red Sword, Icelandic black metal band. Fantastic, fantastic album. For a slightly older black metal album, I would have to say one of my favorites, personal favorites, is the Polish black metal band Tenebrosis, the album Lost and Forgotten. That band's not together anymore, unfortunately, but that album, they went and tracked that album in like 30 days. Or they wrote the songs, rehearsed them, went and tracked the entire album all in a span of 30 days. And it is a banger of a high speed, super extreme end of black metal. That is a fantastic album. Let's see, for like actual like straight up death metal, I mean, the old school death metal revival going on right now is amazing, and I would have to recommend either the bands either Bloodspore, Fungal Warfare Against All Life was their last, I think, like major release, and then or man, maybe Of Feather and Bone. And they've got 2 relatively recent full-length albums that are just fantastic. For older death metal, I mean, a lot of people know them, but one of my favorite old school death metal albums is Unleashed, Where No Life Dwells. I mean, that is one of the gold standards for old school Swedish death metal. That's one of my favorites. I don't know if that's really underrated per se, but especially a lot of the younger crowd nowadays may not know who that is.
I think it is kind of, yeah. I think they're not as mentioned as a lot of the other bands.
No, not even nearly as much as like Grave, which is also a Swedish death metal band. But Unleashed, Where No Life Dwells, is a fantastic album. I love that one. So let's see. I've done metalcore, black metal, death metal, doom metal. Ooh, man. I guess that one's tough because I really love Bell Witch's Mirror Reaper. That was a fantastic funeral doom album, and I still listen to it almost religiously. It's just fantastic. But as far as other like doom metal bands, well, Buried at Sea, Migration. That's a fantastic album. I mean, people in the doom scene are going to know Buried at Sea, but they didn't get quite as well known as even like Ahab or Sleep or whatever. But Buried at Sea or Thou in their kind of crossover. But Buried at Sea, Migration, that's a fantastic doom album. It is heavy. Yeah, I wish they would put out like a second album like that. I mean, they're still together, but they're not terribly active. And I believe they're on Neurot Records with Neurosis, the guys who run Neurosis. I believe they're signed to them. Let's see. Oh, Doom. Well, I guess the other one, it would either have to be something maybe power metal or something more like the folk metal kind of thing. I mean, because I don't listen to too terribly much power metal, but I mean, you can't go wrong with a little Sabaton here and there. But I mean, like old power metal, I wouldn't call it Annihilator power metal. They're much more thrash metal, but I really like Annihilator. Old Annihilator is good stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I really dig them. Again, they didn't get as well known as some of the other thrash bands like Testament and everything. And Slayer, of course, and all that. But Annihilator, they're freaking solid too. I really like them. Yeah, I think that's 5.
Yeah, I think you're right. How about let's go back to movies because I don't think we talked about that too much because I'm very much into film and stuff. So
sure.
How about 5 underrated films?
Oh man, yeah, I love horror movies and I love action movies and 5 underrated films. The first I'm going to mention is actually a Finnish film. There was a remake of it. I'm actually going to look it up real quick. It's the English translation is called The Unknown Soldier. It's a Finnish war movie about the continuation war between Finland and Russia. The 2017 remake of The Unknown Soldier, Tuntematan Sotilas is the Finnish name of it, but The Unknown Soldier, absolutely amazing movie. And there's like 3 different versions of it, and like you got to watch the super extended 3-hour version. It's amazing. One of the best non-American war films I've ever seen. Highly recommend that one. Ooh, other films. Well, let's go with like a horror film, I guess. I really like some of the older horror films like Dagon, which was originally Italian, but that's a Lovecraft theme movie, Dagon. I really like that one. Some of the really like brutal films, like the first Hostel, and the remake of like The Hills Have Eyes and stuff. I mean, they were received fairly well, but I mean, those are just crazy, just splatter flicks, and they're really great.
Yeah, Hostel kind of fucked me up, honestly, when I saw it.
Yeah. It did.
Just the callousness of the villains.
Yeah, absolutely. Hostile, and I mean to think that does mirror some aspects of real life too, because I mean it does get that dark and underground in some parts of the world. Like it's messed up. But I mean, it's just a fantastic Eli Roth, man. He does some good stuff. Other ones like, obviously old like Cannibal Holocaust and stuff, like all those old ones and all that. Which Eli Roth's newer movie, the Green
Inferno.
Green Inferno, was basically Cannibal Holocaust remake, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was pretty good. I even liked the Serbian film. That fucked a lot of people up. Like that extreme of a film, like, okay, yeah, some parts are gonna hurt mentally a little bit, but it's great. Just well done filmmaking. And then of course, Toxic Avenger, all the Trauma films and stuff. We'll switch to something else as far as genre. I really liked The Lighthouse, actually. The A24 films, Black and White, The Lighthouse, with Robert Pattinson and oh my God, why am I brain farting on his name right now?
Yeah, me too.
Boondock Saints, and
he's been in a lot of stuff.
Green Goblin in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Defoe.
William Dafoe, yes. Yeah. Thank you. That was actually a really good movie. I enjoyed that one. Pretty underrated. Midsommar was a really good movie too.
A lot of people didn't like that, but I actually quite liked it. So
I liked it too, especially because I'm very in tune with the Scandinavian paganism and things like that. So I found a lot of enjoyment in Midsommar. It was definitely a mindfuck movie, but that was a really good one. But The Lighthouse as well, fantastic movie. Let me think of one more here. I mean, I'm a bit actually okay. So there's two movies. I mean, one has gotten really popular again and obviously has a really big cult following, and that's Ronin with Robert De Niro and Jean Reno and Sean Bean and all that, about a ragtag group of basically mercenaries and former like intel guys that get together to go do this mission and all that. That's a fantastic movie for a lot of reasons. One of the best car chase scenes ever made, apart from the old Steve McQueen movie. One of the best car chase scenes ever made. And then actually it's a Russell Crowe movie. The promotion for the movie was just a butchery, typical 90s fashion, late 90s fashion, but it's a movie called Proof of Life with Russell Crowe and what's that one redheaded guy's name? He came back for the CSI series, but that movie is really good. It's about an American engineer that goes down to Colombia and is kidnapped by FARC guerrillas. And then Russell Crowe plays a risk analyst and like kidnapping and ransom insurance specialist that does like negotiations and does extractions or prisoner exchanges for money and things like that for through a private company for clients. Very much mirroring some of the aspects of the real world. And I'm kind of familiar with that part of the real world just through my line of work.
Oh, wow.
But it's pretty well done as far as all that goes. Obviously, there's some aspects that are Hollywoodized and all that. And the ending scene where they actually go in and with like a team of guys armed and they go extract him, in a paramilitary kinetic action is really it's pretty amazing. So but that movie Proof of Life was really good, really underrated. Like I said, the promotion, like commercials and everything they did for it were awful. Did not do the movie justice.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
Yeah,
probably should check it out.
It flew under the radar really hard, and I think part of that was because of the piss poor promotion of it, and just like the bad commercials and previews that they made for it. But yeah, that's a great movie to go back and watch. Proof of Life, yeah, with Russell Crowe.
It may sound really cheesy and cliche now because I think it does have a cult following, but one of my favorites lately for some reason is Cobra.
Yes. Yes. No. Cobra is amazing, dude. Stallone. I couldn't see anybody else but Stallone playing Cobra, man. That is a fantastic movie. Pearl Handle 45.
But the sad thing about that is that there's like 45 minutes of footage that was cut from the film. I really want them to re-release it with that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because it goes more into that cult. And like
Oh,
it's more of a I guess it makes it more of a horror movie. Like that's what I've heard, like than an action movie.
I
But
see.
if Stallone would actually, get dig up that footage. I mean, he did Rocky. Was it Rocky 3? He redid or 4? He
Yeah.
redid Rocky 4 recently, or like he had a new edit or whatever. But I think you should
Nice.
do the same with Cobra. I think that would be amazing because I love that movie. I love the match. It's
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
That would actually be awesome because I didn't know that there was so much like extra footage cut from it. That would definitely change the entire like atmosphere and style of the film from what you're saying, from what it sounds like. That's I would like to see that too, actually.
Yeah, there needs to be a petition or something because I definitely want to see that. But those canon films, man, it's crazy.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. There's so many good like 80s action films, like and it old Navy SEALs, Charlie Sheen, Michael Biehn, and then a bunch of those old a bunch of those old Chuck Norris films, the original Delta Force, and I really liked the Iron Eagle movies with the F-16s, the F-16 fighters. Those were kind of corny but fun.
Yeah,
Um,
it's always fun.
yeah, you know what's another really good '80s movie that didn't get enough attention? I think
What?
partly because of the movie Flight of the Navigator.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, dude, the like almond spaceship, and then Pee Wee Herman's doing the voice for the thing inside, and that movie really didn't get the attention. Well, maybe it did back in the day, but I don't know. That was one of those movies that kind of stuck with me for a long time. It was just like, this is crazy. It was a great movie. It was a
Not
great
to
movie.
age myself, but I did see that in the theater.
Oh, that's awesome.
I saw it in the theater with my father. So yeah, I saw
uh,
that. I love that movie. Yeah, I love the time travel stuff. I like anything time travel pretty much. I just eat
sure,
that up. So I mean,
sure.
that was a cool movie to see in the theater. I think I saw The Boy Who Could Fly at the same theater. I think it was what was that? Westgate, when they had a movie theater there
Oh,
back in
okay,
the day on the west
okay.
side. We're talking locally. If people hearing this don't know what we're talking about, but yeah, I saw both those movies. It was either that or the Garbage Pail Kids movie he would take me to, but he
Oh,
decided against the Garbage Pail Kids movie, which I saw later, which
sure.
is a terrible but fun film to watch now. I think
I
my
mean,
friend,
I could appreciate the practical effects and all the puppeteering and everything. I mean, that's just, you can't beat that.
yeah, yeah, it's a interesting film. They probably couldn't get away with that now, though. I'll tell you that. But there's a lot of stuff they couldn't
Unfortunately,
do.
no. I mean, shit, you can't even get away with Tropic Thunder nowadays.
Oh, yeah, I've never seen that, but
Oh,
I'm
dude, you
sure.
got to see Tropic Thunder. You'll be laughing pretty much the entire time. It's hilarious.
I do like Tom Cruise as a villain, though. I don't know if he's a villain in that one, but he just plays a good
I
villain.
mean, he's kind of a I say he's more of an antagonizing sub character. He's like this like he's kind of like a mix between like Jeff Bezos and like I don't know some of those other like multi-billionaires, and he's like this billionaire, but also bought this like film company and they were making the film Tropic Thunder and everything. It's very meta in a lot of ways, but like I don't know, it's just funny. He plays a really. I didn't recognize him at first with all of the makeup and the fat suit and everything. It was hilarious. Like that. It was
Wow.
really good movie.
Well, like his best friend is the head of Scientology, so he probably gets some experience seeing the that side of the whatever you want to call it. So yeah, he's really big buddies with that's his best friend, I guess. The current head of Scientology. Not to talk about that because I know they don't want. I don't know. They
Yeah,
very
yeah.
controversial subject, but
It is. It
it,
is.
even though I went to the Milwaukee mission a couple times just to check it out.
I bet that was a bit of a trip.
Oh, it was. Oh, it was. They were checking us out. They wanted our addresses, so I gave them a fake address, but I didn't want to fuck around with that stuff too much because I
That's
don't
fun.
know. We thought they were checking out the car or something. I don't know. We drove or we parked like a block, like 2 blocks away, just to.
Uh-huh.
I was just checking it out. She said, said that Star Wars was true because everything is true or something, or I forgot what it was. Like she said it in a galaxy far, far away, like or whatever. Like they believe all science fiction is true, pretty much. Like
okay.
on some like in some reality, or I forgot what the whole concept was. I've kind of obsessed with Scientology, so but
that's interesting. No, that's I mean that's when I mean you look at there's the Jedi religion now. It's a certified, recognized religion. I had at my end career in the military, I actually had a buddy because on our dog tags you can put like your religious preference on there, and he had Jedi on his dog tags, which was kind of funny.
Oh damn!
But yeah, no, that's crazy. Yeah, because it's I mean there's a whole mixed bag of that nowadays. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think I'm going to probably wrap it up at least this time. It was really good talking to you, but let's get some as far as what you want people to check out the most and stuff, if you can think of that.
Sure. To circle back real quick, as far as corrosion of conformity goes, because we were talking about that before, Reed Mullen, who was the drummer for COC, died in 2020. That was a recent guy that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, Reed Mullen, which unfortunate. But okay. Yeah, to close it out. So I've got a bunch of bands. I also have a YouTube channel. If you just search DJ, quote unquote, the Metalhead Mercenary, you'll find my YouTube channel. And I put a bunch of my music stuff on there. I put videos of tracking vocals for projects, so like all other snippets, and just kind of really whatever I want to put on there. I just kind of throw up there for a bunch of different stuff. Apart from my YouTube channel, the various bands to check out would be Decoherence, Decoherence UK. Bandcamp.com, and also through the Sentient Ruin Laboratories labels, Bandcamp, and their website. Eldarion, just eldarion.bandcamp.com, ELDARION. Cryptic Evil, crypticevil.bandcamp.com. Odious Emesis is odiousemesis.bandcamp.com. The Anointing Maelstrom is, I believe, just the anointingmaelstrom.bandcamp.com. Pythonissam is pythonissam.bandcamp.com. Same with Coffin Black. Beer Enema is through Putrid Slaughterhouse Records, so that's Grindcore Wisconsin, grindcorewi.bandcamp.com. Couple other projects, Bani, BANI, heathenry.bandcamp.com. And then Ordo Malum is just ordomalum.bandcamp.com. Just a lot of Bandcamp ones. I have them all linked on my YouTube channel as well. But yeah, it's just a bunch of those, a bunch of those listed out, and I do appearances all the time on various projects, and those pop up on the various promotion YouTube channels and otherwise. So I stay pretty active with it. So
yeah, it's pretty mind blowing how much stuff you have up. It's pretty. Yeah, I would never be able to be that prolific, honestly. So
I don't know if it's prolific per se. I mean, my one of my buddies, because I'm also a combatives instructor and firearms instructor. But one of my buddies in that industry, he calls me a Renaissance man because I do like painting and graphic design and music and all that. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I mean, I have some hobbies that I'm pretty involved in, I guess. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But
yeah, no, I just thought I'd close out, and it's great. I mean, I'll edit out a lot of stuff. Yeah, speaking of that, so well, I'll just end it right here, and we'll just keep talking. And
sure.